You've probably seen those incredible videos, right? A giant robot arm squeezing out concrete, building an entire house in just 24 hours. It looks like something straight out of science fiction. And maybe, just maybe, the answer to our housing problems. But is that the whole story? Today, we're going to peel back the layers on robotic 3D printing for homes. We're going to find out what's real, what's just hype, and what this all actually means for the future of building. Let's get into it.
So first, let's bring this down to earth. Why does this even matter? Well, if you're trying to buy a house in a city like Brisbane, you're looking at a median price of around $900,000. And that was at the start of this year. For so many people, that number makes owning a home feel totally out of reach.
And look, this isn't just a local problem, not by a long shot. If we zoom out, the United Nations figures there's a global shortage of nearly 100 million affordable homes. That is a massive worldwide crisis. So yeah, the world is desperate for new, innovative solutions. And that is where the robot comes in.
This right here. This is the claim that goes viral every time. It's an absolutely electrifying promise, isn't it? A whole family home, built from the ground up in a single day. I mean, if that's true, it could change everything. But you know how it goes. When something sounds that good, you've got to look a little closer.
So let's do that. Let's get real. What are we actually talking about with that 24-hour claim? Are we talking about a house you can move into tomorrow? Let's break this thing down.
And here it is. This is the big catch. The promise you see online is a complete, finished home in a day. The reality? That 24-hour number? Well, it only covers printing the structural walls. That's it. Just the concrete shell of the house.
Yep, you still need actual people to come in and do everything else. We're talking about the roof, the windows, the doors, running all the pipes for plumbing and all the wires for electricity, not to mention all the painting and finishing inside. That whole process, it still takes weeks, sometimes even months of good old-fashioned construction work.
Okay, so now that we've kind of reset our expectations, let's look at how this incredible technology actually works. Because even if it's not magic, it is still pretty revolutionary.
You know, this stuff didn't just appear overnight. It's been evolving for a while now. It kind of started with these small demo houses back in 2017. Then, in the 2020s, companies like Icon started building whole neighborhoods of these things. And now, we're seeing these wild next-gen prototypes like Charlotte in Australia, which is this mobile robot that honestly looks like a giant spider. So cool.
So the process itself is this really cool mix of digital and physical work. It all kicks off with a digital blueprint on a computer. Then, the crew sets up the printer on the building site. After that, the robot gets to work, squeezing out this special concrete-like goo, layer by layer, building the walls from the ground up. And then, finally, as we now know, the humans come back in for all the manual finishing to turn that shell into a real home.
It's also worth knowing what kind of robot we're talking about here. Most of the printed houses today are built using these huge gantry systems. Just imagine a massive, square frame that the printer nozzle moves around inside. Those futuristic spider bots like Charlotte, they're the next step for sure. But right now, they're mostly still in the testing and prototype phase. Okay, so we busted the 24-hour myth. But hey, don't get discouraged. Let's talk about the real advantages of this technology, because trust me, they're genuinely impressive and super important. There are 4 huge ones. First, speed. Look, even if it's not 24 hours, printing the walls of a house in a few days instead of a few months is a massive game changer. Second, the cost. It can be a lot cheaper. Third, sustainability, a huge win for the planet. And fourth, design. You can create these incredible curved organic shapes that are super difficult and expensive to do with traditional methods.
Let's talk about those cost savings for a second. Icon, one of the big players in this space, claims their process can cut construction costs by 20 to 30%. Now, here's the giant asterisk. This does not include the price of the land the house sits on, which, as we know, is often the biggest expense. But still, a 30% saving on the build itself is nothing to sneeze at.
And the green angle is massive. Get this, making traditional cement is responsible for about 8% of all global CO2 emissions. That is a wild number. 3D printing is way more efficient, so it creates less waste. Plus, it's pushing innovation for new low-carbon materials that could seriously slash that environmental impact.
All right, so if this tech is faster, potentially cheaper, and better for the environment, why aren't we all living in 3D printed houses right now? Well, like with any big revolution, there are some pretty serious hurdles we still have to get over.
There are really 4 big roadblocks. First, the tech is still new, so we don't have, say, 50 years of data on how these materials hold up over time. Second, you've got regulations. Building codes are famously slow to change and don't really have a chapter for giant house printing robots yet. Third, you can't just mass produce these on a massive scale yet. And finally, the economics. The printers themselves are super expensive, and again, so is the land.
So, when you weigh the incredible promise against all those tough realities, what's the final verdict? What is the true potential of this technology?
I think this one word is key: panacea. A panacea is a cure-all, a magic bullet that fixes everything. And as exciting as 3D printed houses are, they are not a panacea for the housing crisis. It's an incredibly powerful new tool in the toolbox, but it is not a magic wand.
And here's why. A robot can build a house faster, sure, but it can't change zoning laws that say you can't build apartments in a certain area. It can't stop land speculation that makes prices skyrocket. The technology is only one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. It's like having a supercar in the middle of a traffic jam. The car is amazing, but the system around it is the problem.
But let's end on a really positive, practical note, because there are areas where this tech can make a huge difference, like today. Think about it. Building sturdy homes super fast after a natural disaster like a hurricane or a bushfire. Or building houses in really remote places where it's hard to get workers and materials. And it's an amazing fit for innovative social and low-income housing projects. In these specific areas, 3D printing is already proving to be a total game changer.
So in the end, the technology is here. It's real, and it's getting better and more powerful every single day. The potential is absolutely undeniable. But the biggest question isn't really about the robots anymore. It's about us, our laws, our economic systems, and our building codes ready to actually embrace this revolution. That's the real hurdle we need to clear.